Good afternoon, everyone, or morning, depending on where you are. All right. Just a quick housekeeping item while others still get logged in here. This webinar will be recorded and it will be available through our YouTube channel for viewing afterwards, or if you want to share it with others within the organization. On that YouTube channel, there are condensed versions of just this demo that I'm planning to kind of go through and walk through today. So you can always get the shortened version of it if preferred. But everyone, thank you for joining me today. Today we are going to look at leveraging Laserfiche for new client onboarding. My name is Laura Froyam, and I'm an account executive here at CDI, and I'm excited to go through this with you today. So our agenda is going to be going through the Laserfiche tools and software components that you need to build out a client onboarding process. We're going to talk a little bit about additional process ideas and the specific flow of the automation that I'm going to be showing today. We're going to talk about integrations and options from there, and then we're going to jump into a live demo and finish up with questions. As I go through today's presentation, if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the questions box, and I will address them at the end. But I don't want you to forget about them throughout the presentation if you come up with something good or a specific question. So starting out with Laserfiche tools. So Laserfiche has a lot of different platforms and options for consideration, depending on your needs and requirements. So today, the automation that I'm going to be showing you is with actually a Laserfiche Rio system within a virtualized server environment. But any of these platforms here or any of these deployments for self-hosted or virtualized or even the full cloud SaaS system, you would be able to have some pieces of this client onboarding process as we have built out. With the Laserfiche Cloud SaaS model, there are limitations as far as integration capabilities, but some pieces of it do carry through. So if you do have a SaaS solution, again, you can get some pieces of this, but what we're going to walk through today is the full on-premise deployment of Laserfiche. So once you have your Laserfiche system, you also need to have a couple of additional tools as part of that. Depending on when you purchased and deployed your Laserfiche infrastructure, you may have some of this already bundled in as part of your package. If it's not bundled in, you can most certainly add it in as a system add-on to get the functionality that we need. But our process today is going to start out with a Laserfiche Forms, or with a Laserfiche form. And Forms, for those of you who may not know, is just a web-based form that you can build to collect whatever information you may possibly need, whether it's with HR, whether it's with client onboarding, or any of the other examples that we'll go through. It essentially allows you to collect information, use that information for updating databases, updating CRMs, kicking off automation, setting reminders, things like that. You can also use your Forms application for task management and assignment, which we'll take a look at. And then, again, for those of you who aren't aware of what Laserfiche Forms can do, you can have tasks and information routed directly to a specific person or to a team. And you have complete control over how you set that up. So whether you wanted to route to person A if it's under a certain dollar threshold, or person B if it's above that, or, depending on what type of service they're signing up for with your team, it can route to one person or the next. So again, you have complete control over your Forms automation. In addition to Forms, we would need Laserfiche Workflow to be a part of your software bundle. So Workflow allows you to really automate anything. You can use it in conjunction with Forms, and then it allows you to file documents, rename documents, route them in whatever order again you need. You can use Laserfiche to create documents or fill standardized document templates, such as, again, your client onboarding documentation. We're going to be filling out a Schwab form. You can also use it to, create your contracts. Any document that you send out on a standard basis that your team has to populate, you can leverage Laserfiche to do that for you. And you can even leverage Laserfiche to connect with your other applications to pull in information from other databases and things like that. So workflow allows you to set reminders, do those external connections, export and email data, all just as part of your workflow process. Additionally, we'll be taking a look at the Salesforce and DocuSign integrations that we have today. Those will be part of this process, but essentially the Laserfiche workflow engine is very robust, and it allows you to, any process flow that you have, you can automate, and we can a lot of times connect it with the other applications that you are using on a regular basis. So some of the CRMs that we already have integrations for are Salesforce, Dynamic CRM, Tamarack, Salentica, Redtail, Juncture, and others. And with Salesforce, it's about the Salesforce backend. It doesn't necessarily matter what your front end overlay is. I know some are using Lightning, some are using. I know that there are quite a few others out there. But as long as Salesforce is your backend, you would have all of the same functionality that we're going to go through and look at today. And then digital signatures. You can incorporate digital signatures through a number of different providers at this point. DocuSign and OneSpan are probably some of our more popular ones right now. Also, the Adobe eSign integration. If you are an existing user of ours, or you have your Laserfiche maintenance through CDI, you should have received in one of our monthly newsletters that the Adobe eSign integration is out, and we had recorded a short video so you can see how that looks and feels. But we're going to be looking today again at the DocuSign integration and how that can be incorporated as part of your workflow to keep things moving along. So today, when I jump into the client onboarding presentation, I want you to think about how this functionality could carry over to, again, any of your other processes. We're using a form to collect information, and then we're using that information to route internally and create documents, create folders, push information into a records retention series, all kinds of good stuff. So here's just again a couple of ideas that you can use. Vendor onboarding, very similar to client onboarding, benefits enrollment, any change form. With your forms as well, you have the ability to have them set up just for internal use. So maybe your team is sitting down with that client and they're filling out the form on their computer or on their tablet or mobile device. You can also have it set up so that it is publicly facing, so that your clients can click a link on your website or receive a link in an email that you've sent them to fill out the form that we're going to be going through. So you can have it set up either way. If you do want it publicly facing, that is an add-on with a component called the Forms portal. So we're just going to dive in again to the process flow of the client onboarding. So I know that a number of firms do things a little bit differently, but typically, you're onboarding a new customer, you have to get their information. You have to know who they are. You have to learn information about their assets, their liabilities, if you're providing financial planning services to them. And then from there, we update our CRM. Maybe they already exist in the CRM, or maybe you need to add them. You have to create those activities in your CRM so that your team has transparency over, what's happened with this client from start to finish. We have to create the folder structure, creating the folder structure so that, again, your team knows where to find things and you have a single file point for all of your documentation. Maybe you have to create documentation or standardized contracts or the client onboarding forms, move money forms, IRAs, whatever it may be. Creating that documentation, routing it for approval, sending it to compliance. Once it's been approved, collecting those signatures so that you can officially push the document to maybe your custodian or your BD to open the account. And then from there, you can set up, of course, reminders and send out emails, all of that. So if you don't have an automated process within Laserfiche, or maybe combined with your CRM and through Laserfiche, this process can take you a long time. It can take you days or even weeks of time to get things onboarded, depending on, how often you're doing this and who's involved and employee turnover and things like that. Well, Laserfiche can really do it all for you. So let's take a look. So what I want to start with is just showing a couple of areas. So I want to, again, we have this integrated with Salesforce. And so today I'm actually going to onboard Tina Turner. I just found out that she is the one who's editing all of my Word documents, and I can't figure out how to take her name and put my name on. So I'm just going to keep on with the Tina Turner example. But as you can see here, she is not reflected in my Salesforce account list. And through the forms process, we'll see that Tina Turner will get added. So we're going to use our CRM integration to create an account for us within our Salesforce instance. If Tina Turner already existed, we could have it just connect information and push any of the updated fields that we didn't have into our CRM account. So you can set it up either way. Additionally, I want to jump over to our repository. So here we are in the web client of Laserfiche. Let me just make it a little bigger. And I'm going to go into financial services and take a look at our client files. So if I scroll down, we have it all sorted, of course, by last name. We've got no Tina Turner. Ooh, we do have a Patty Turner, though. And so the Laserfiche automation is going to build out this folder structure along with a number of other things. So again, we're going to kick this off with a Laserfiche form. Let me go ahead and just do a quick refresh because I've been sitting for a little bit. And when we talk about Laserfiche forms, I want you to note that anything that you see in this form, the colors, the logos, the information that's being collected, the fields, all of that is 100% customizable to, again, whatever your team needs and requirements are. You can also have this form, if it's publicly facing, embedded directly into your website by taking advantage of some custom coding in Java, so that it's embedded right there in your website so they don't get pushed into another tab. Again, really whatever is going to be most convenient for your team. So I have mine set up with multiple tabs. You can have your form set up so that it's dynamic. So based on the information that's being filled out and selections that are being made throughout the form, it dynamically changes with the user. You can make certain fields required so that you're always collecting the minimal amount of information you need. I can't talk apparently. You can also set up formatting on your fields. So here we've got birth dates indicated with the slash, but if you prefer dashes, you can do that. If you want your social security numbers formatted with dashes or not, you can certainly include formatting on your fields. I'm going to go through city, US, collect information on their occupation, annual income. We're just going to click next here at the bottom. Otherwise, we can go through and we can tab, click on each of the tabs at the top. You do have the ability, if you wanted to, make this form available so that users can save it as a draft. So if they get started on it and they're not quite ready to finish when they start, they can save it as a draft, so it emails them a copy that they would then be able to click on and finish at a later date. So I'm going to type in just some values of my assets. I wish these were my assets, I mean. And as we fill in information, it's doing a tally or a calculation for us at the bottom and calculating all of my assets for me. Again, I have the ability to include and dynamically add additional fields, like as I'm filling these details out, or delete them as I don't want them. And there we go, it's calculating our total. Same with liabilities. With liabilities too, in this example, it's doing some graphing for us, which is kind of fun. So we can see based on the assets that we input, it created this easy visual for us. So again, when we're sitting down with our client, we have the ability to produce this visual on demand, as we're going through it. We could say, oh yeah, 66% of your assets lie here in your mortgage, which is, what we would typically anticipate, whatever it may be. You can also fill out long paragraphs of information. So again, if you are doing financial planning or offering those types of services to your clients, you have the ability to document their goals within a Laserfiche form. And again, all of this information can be pushed into a database to help you pre-populate other documentation, whatever you need it to be. So again, you can do paragraphs of information. You would have the ability to resize this as well. So if you want this to show a bigger show as a bigger block, you can do that, or a smaller block. It's up to you. So again, complete control over customizing, what you want your form to look like. You can even incorporate risk, this handy little risk tolerance slider. This is just done with some CSS Java code, that kind of thing, to put it into your form. Now, if this was a publicly facing form and your clients were filling it out, they wouldn't have the ability to rate their own risk, but this could be something that comes back to your team, when they need to review the document. You can also do radio buttons and checkboxes, whatever you need. And you can have it be dynamic. So again, as they make selections, do you have an attorney? Maybe a box pops up so they can type in their attorney name if that's something that you can collect or you want to collect. Additionally, you can have documents uploaded into a Laserfiche form. So it's something where they can just click and drag and drop from their desktop, or they can click upload and navigate through their desktop folders to find the document they want to include. Either way, and you can make attachments required or not. So again, depending on what form they're filling out and what information you're collecting in, whatever stage you're at, you can make forms or attachments required so they can't submit it to you without their proof of identification. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. And what this is going to do is kick off a compliance approval task for me. And because I'm in a demo environment, it's bringing me directly to my forms task box. So I can see here, I've got a new task that I need to attend to. Additionally, if I were not in my task box at all times and I don't want to have to worry about, managing that on a regular basis, I can have an email sent out saying, hey, you've got a new task you need to take a look at. Take action. So here I'm getting a new client questionnaire compliance review form. If I go ahead and click this, it's going to bring me directly to my task for processing. So here, again, you have the ability to control what this task and the form looks like when your user is approving the next step. So we can go ahead and we can add comments. Looks great. I want to onboard Tina Turner. She will be good for our firm. You can tab through it. You can jump right to the end if you'd like, and you can go ahead and approve it or reject it. Again, within Forms, you have the ability to see this action history, so you can see who's done what as part of your approval process. So you've always got that transparency into, where it's at in whichever step. You could also reassign it if you wanted. So if this is not something you feel comfortable doing, something like that, you could certainly do that. I'm just going to go ahead and approve it, but I'm going to jump back into my Forms task box quick, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. So within Forms, and I'm on 10.3, that's something I believe. I'm not on the latest version 11, but it still looks the same. Where you see the changes from older versions to version 11 is in mainly where you're configuring and designing your Forms processes. But anyway, within your task box, you can see a list of all of the existing tasks that you need to take action on. And you can also assign tasks out to a team of users. So again, if you've got a team of client service reps that all have the opportunity to take action on any incoming requests, you can have team tasks assigned. And then from there, they can get that email notification, and then they can assign the task to themselves so it shows up in their box and they can go ahead and complete it. They can also take a look at their completed tasks or any tasks that were unassigned. So this again would be Teams tasks that are just sitting in the Teams queue. And then anything that they started but didn't finish would show up here in the drafts. So I'm going to pop back into my Salesforce quick and we'll take a look at what happened. I'm going to refresh. And we can see now that Tina Turner's account was created here within our Salesforce instance. So I can go ahead and click on Tina's name. And not only can we push information to any of the fields in Salesforce, whether it's something that's included out of the box, whether it's something included in one of the overlays that you have on your Salesforce, or a field that you have created on your own, we can interface with them all with pushing and pulling information and updating and querying. You can do it on a single basis or as a group. An example of that would be, let's say you have a client service rep that has, moved on to a new role. You can have a workflow or a forms process set up saying, hey, I need to adjust the account owner on all of Patrick Welsh's accounts over to Laura Froyam because she's going to handle them all. So you could do it for each, essentially. And then you can also have the workflow, the CRM workflow activities delete things if you'd like. So again, there's a lot of possibilities with the integration. In addition to interfacing with the fields, we also have this image enablement or embedded iframe of Laserfiche directly in your Salesforce screen. So that just kind of gives you an additional added convenience so your users don't have to leave the CRM to find the documents associated with that particular account or contact. That's another thing I want to mention is that you have the ability to set up your Laserfiche integration to interface with your accounts or your contacts or your leads. Again, it doesn't really matter what type of entity it is. It's just a matter of ensuring that the GUID from your Salesforce is applied to the folder within your Laserfiche system to make that connection for you. And again, there are ways to automate that as part of your processes, or it's just set up at the onset of your integration deployment. But anyway, this is opening up Tina Turner's folder for me within Web Access. We can see that it created our standardized folder structure for us so that every time we go into one of our accounts, we know where the documents are stored and what folders are always expected to be there. So if I take a look and I go into correspondence, I can see that the system has populated a outgoing client engagement letter for me. So let's just preview that here. Make that a little bigger. And you can also resize this embedded iframe window to be whatever size you'd like it. Ours is smaller than I personally would prefer, but It looks nice in the demo. Well, we won't preview it here. We'll jump into web access in a little bit. But essentially, your users, anything they would have the ability to do in the web access version of Laserfiche, they would be able to do right here from the Salesforce screen. So again, if I wanted to drag and drop a document directly from my desktop into this client's record, I could certainly do that. Just drag and drop. It's going to walk me through the import screens, which is, do you want to apply a template? Do you want to apply the metadata? Things like that. As a reminder and as a, good to know, Laserfiche can retroactively apply metadata. So if you want to have your users set up so that they can drag and drop into correspondence or financial planning, and then you want to have a basic, set of metadata fields completed based on the folder that they put it in, I mean, you can do that. So it can retroactively say, okay, I see you've plopped this new document into correspondence and you didn't have a template applied, but I know, being workflow, that I need to apply the client files template. And I know that you already put this in Tina Turner's folder, and it's a correspondence document and something incoming. So it can retroactively do that for you if you want, and it can leverage the information based on the existing document's name to parse out information and things like that. So again, a lot of options to do things, either before or after, depending on what your flow is. So next, before I jump into the web access folder structure to kind of peruse that, let's finish taking a look at this preview that finally loaded. It's kind of small, but again, this is a standard client engagement letter template that we used, and based on that form submission, anything that you see here in this like reddish orange color, I know it's kind of small, was information that workflow pushed into that standardized document template for us. So I didn't have to go through and add Tina's name into all of those sections and put in, when she had filled it out and all that good stuff. It just did it for me automatically. So another thing that was kicked off was a DocuSign envelope. Now, if your firm, is pushing this to like a Schwab or Fidelity or, Pershing after the document has been completed, you can incorporate that into your DocuSign process. So it goes to those custodians to open up the accounts automatically. That is just one of the easy integrations that's available. You essentially tie it into your Laserfiche workflow where it carbon copies, the custodians once the application has been completed by your client. And then from there, Pershing, Fidelity, and Schwab will take care of it and go ahead and open up the account. So again, as part of my process, I had indicated, I want to do an account opening. I didn't actually do that in my form, but had I done that, it would know, okay, they want to open this type of form. I'm going to go ahead and pre-fill the form, and then we're going to push it to document. And then the client gets an email like this through the DocuSign integration. You have the ability to control the subject line, who it's getting sent from, and what is contained here in the body of the email, so you can manage all of that. And then they just walk through and sign off on the document. I agree. Tina Turner. So then again, at this point, it could route directly to your custodians, and they would ingest it and onboard this particular client. Otherwise, or in addition, it would pull the signed document, or it will pull the signed document directly back into your Laserfiche system for archival, and it could kick off a notification, reminder emails, whatever you need. So let's jump into our client files here. and I'm going to do a refresh. We can see here by this little green icon that there's information that has changed since I was last on this window. So I'm just going to go ahead and refresh it. Now I'm going to search by last modified. And after I do that a few times and the filtering is either up or down, I honestly can never remember which is which. But most recent to past. We've got Tina Turner's folder here again. And if I go into her financial planning folder, take a look at this new client questionnaire, this is what the form submission would look like without any customizations. So again, we filled out that Laserfiche form. It goes in and just put all of that detail in as the Laserfiche form. So you can have it set up that way, or you can have it set up so that it creates that client engagement letter, so that fillable Word document. Or you can have it set up so that it creates that fillable PDF document. Again, whatever you need it to do. If I go into correspondence again, there's that engagement letter. I think that I want to go into investments. All right, here we go. I'm getting there. So here we had just sent or signed that DocuSign envelope, but we're going to take a look at this document preview of the account opening document. So again, it took a Schwab fillable PDF form and populated Tina Turner's information into that, and that's what was sent out into the Laserfiche or the DocuSign envelope for signature. Again, you can incorporate this as an Adobe e-sign. It can be a Signex document. Depending on what your custodian allows, though, sometimes they'll accept those through kind of a carbon copy, as I had mentioned with DocuSign, and sometimes they won't. It's dependent on what your custodian allows again. But eventually that DocuSign document that we had sent out will get funneled back. Oh, and maybe it's there if I refresh. There it is. So we have the original on-sign document. We can see that it came in and it renamed the document the signed version, so I can easily see which one has been signed. If I scroll down, you can see the signature. You can also see the DocuSign envelope information was applied to the document, so you can easily see and reference that. And then the integration, you have the ability to bring in the DocuSign certificate of completion. So if you wanted to include that so that you never really have to go back into DocuSign, you can most certainly do that. You can also have it bundled into the document, the account opening document at the end of it as well. So again, kind of a lot of options for bringing those signed documents back into the system, and then kind of what flow or process you want to have from there. We also, with our DocuSign integration, have this tool tab. It's totally not going to work for me because I cannot remember my password. But essentially, it could, instead of seeing the DocuSign certificate of completion, you could just look at this tab and then see the DocuSign certificate of completion information in a separate tab. I mean, it's totally up to you. It's just another way to see the information in a way that maybe is more convenient or user friendly to you. So let's jump back to our PowerPoint from the current slide. So, if we jump back quick to the client onboarding process, we demonstrated intaking all of that client's information, creating and updating our CRM, automatically creating the folder structure and the documentation and routing for the approvals. I mean, all of this could go from a week-long process to a quick, 1 or 2 hour process, depending on how fast everybody is with clicking and whether or not they're in another meeting or something like that. So Laserfiche can do it all. I did want to put out a quick poll because I am always very curious and like to know what is, adding value to you through the CDI team. So I'm interested in hearing what type of webinars you prefer to see. Do you like process demonstrations like what we did today? Do you want to see more training demonstrations, build along sessions where you build right alongside client stories, success stories, things like that, or other? And if you say other, I am hoping that you fill out the actual survey that happens at the end to give us ideas of, what else you'd like to see. All right. So let me find that poll on my computer. All right. So it looks like most people are interested in the build along sessions. I know that we have some requests for advanced build along sessions and some for, just beginner build along sessions. And again, I'm hoping you can take a few moments at the end of today's session to fill out that survey and give us some specifics on kind of what you would like to see. So share. I don't know if it's my first time using polls. So I think you can see 25% of you said process demonstration, 75% of you said build along. So sounds good. All right. And then what we have upcoming is more of a training webinar. So adding physical records management to Laserfiche. That's held Thursday, November 11th at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can go ahead and register that for that through this URL or by going to the CDI website and clicking on webinars and taking a look. And I actually might take that back. If you do that right now, I don't know if this webinar is officially on the website, but I'll get with the marketing team and we'll get that added as quickly as possible. So let's jump into some questions. Using Tamarack, can you qualify a lead from a CRM workflow activity? Can you qualify a lead? So yes, I have seen, I haven't actually seen this, but if you qualify a lead from a CRM workflow activity, so it would be kind of a two-step process. Like something would happen in Laserfiche that would make the update and push it into a field, or check a box within your CRM, and then from there it could theoretically qualify it if you know that Tamarack has the ability to qualify a lead like that. I would think that there's a way to do that, but I do think it would be kind of a two-step process, and I can look into that and get back to you more specifically. And then another question. You said depending on the custodian, does Schwab and Fidelity normally accept the DocuSign carbon copies? Yes to both of those, which is why I mentioned it. I recently went through this with another firm that we are supporting, and I don't know if Fidelity requires you to fill out some documentation first indicating that you are interested in doing that, but I know that they both Schwab and Fidelity, you have the ability to carbon copy it, but with Fidelity you have to include like an additional disclosure as part of the packet, and then they'll accept it. I do have a couple of really helpful Fidelity contacts, so if you are interested in that, I am most happy to share those with you. Right. Any other questions? All right, well, that looks like that concludes all of the questions for now. If you think of something afterwards, please don't hesitate to reach out to sales@cdi.support, and we'll get you directed to the right team member to assist with any of the questions or concerns you may have. As a reminder, this webinar is recorded and it will be available on our YouTube site after today's session. Thanks again for joining me. I hope you all have a great day. Bye.